Do you ever wonder why some non-monogamous relationships seem to implode overnight? Here's the real truth. It's usually not the non-monogamy that causes the crash. It's the do-it-yourself approach to getting there. Today, I'm going to share what nobody tells you about the real cost of figuring this all out alone. Hey, welcome back to Nope, We're Not Monogamous. I'm Ellecia, your non-monogamous relationship coach and your host. You know what I hear all the time? We'll just figure it out as we go. Or there's plenty of free advice online. There's plenty of books. There's plenty of resources. And every time I hear this, my heart sinks just a little bit because I know what's coming next. And if you're thinking about opening your relationship or you're already struggling with doing it without a support system, this episode might save you years of heartache, okay? So let me tell you about my own expensive lessons in DIY non-monogamy. 10 years ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I'd read the books. I'd joined the online groups. I felt completely ready. I was not ready. I had no idea. One conversation, just one, nearly ended my relationship. Not because we didn't love each other, not because non-monogamy was wrong for us, but because I had no idea how to handle the emotional aftermath of that first date that my partner went on. The books didn't prepare me for the tsunami of feelings that hit. The forums couldn't tell me how to rebuild trust after I handled it badly. We both felt betrayed. What is even right? So that free education cost me months of relationship repair work. So today I'm going to break down the 5 hidden costs of DIYing your non-monogamy. I'm going to share some real stories from my clients with permission and name changes, of course. And I'm going to give you some practical ways to protect your relationships. So let's talk about these hidden costs. The first one is trust bankruptcy. You probably know the feeling of your bank account being overdrawn. If you don't, I'm proud of you. But most of us have done it at least once, right? Trust bankruptcy feels similar, but the overdraft fees are emotional. Here's what happened with my clients, Mike and Sarah. They thought that they could handle their first experience with dating others by just being honest, which sounds great, right? Like, yes, do that. We do want to be honest. But there wasn't anything else that really went into that plan. Like, they didn't define what honesty meant for each of them. So for Mike, honesty meant sharing after the fact, like, oh, hey, here's what happened. And for Sarah, honesty meant discussing before taking any actions. One coffee date later, which Mike just dropped casually after the fact, their trust account was suddenly overdrawn. Sarah felt blindsided. Mike felt confused. They were in a fight that didn't have any real antagonist. And the real kicker here is that both of them were being honest according to their own definitions. But without proper guidance in creating these clear agreements first, they had accidentally created a trust deficit that took them months to repair. You know, trust isn't like money. You can't just deposit more when you make a mistake. It requires some consistent and intentional rebuilding. So the second hidden cost is the emotional debt spiral. Think of your emotions like credit card debt. If you ignore them, the interest is going to compound daily. And then you're going to have a really big bill that's really hard to catch up on. For one of my clients, it looked like this. They started exploring non-monogamy while pushing down their jealousy because evolved people don't get jealous, right? Wrong. You've heard me talk about it a lot. Jealousy is a real thing. And ignoring it doesn't make it go away, right? It grows, it morphs, it gets really big, and jealousy turns into resentment. Resentment becomes passive aggression. Passive aggression becomes a breakdown in your relationship. So 3 months in, they were drowning in emotional debt they didn't even know how to pay off. And the solution wasn't to avoid those emotions, right? It's having the tools to process them effectively. The third hidden cost of DIYing your non-monogamy or just not having a good support is community isolation. So here's the pattern that I see a lot. People try to figure out non-monogamy alone because they're afraid of judgment. So let me know, does this ring true for you? My client Jamie had this happen. Actually, lots of my clients. but I'm using Jamie as the example here. Uh, couldn't tell her friends because they wouldn't understand. Couldn't tell her family because they would judge her. Couldn't share with their coworkers because, well, just work. Their partner was their only support person. And when struggles came up with that partner, there was nobody else to turn to, nowhere else to go. It's kind of like trying to be your own therapist during a crisis. It's ineffective, it's exhausting, kind of left going, I don't know what to do. When Jamie came to me, they had been trying to handle this really complex situation with a new partner while having zero support system. And the result of that is that every small issue became magnified, became so much bigger because there was no outside perspective to help them maintain balance. The fourth hidden cost is time lost to recovery. So let's talk about the most precious resource that you cannot get back. It's time. There was a couple that I worked with who spent 6 months trying to DIY their opening up process. They spent a year dealing with the fallout from what were preventable mistakes. They spent 2 years rebuilding trust that did not need to be broken. So that's 3.5 years that could have been spent building beautiful connections, growing together, creating amazing memories. Instead, they spent it in damage control mode. And the truth is that most relationship recovery time isn't even necessary. It's the result of mistakes that could have been preventable or just a lot of overprocessing. So the fifth hidden cost here is just wear and tear on your relationship. Think of your relationship like a car. Regular maintenance prevents breakdowns. You got to go get the oil changed. You got to get tune-ups. You got to have your brakes done, rotate the tires, whatever else you do to cars. I don't know. That's not my profession. So here's what the wear and tear looks like in your relationship. If you don't have a plan and support and structure in place to help you, you get constant low grade anxiety about making mistakes. There's regular misunderstandings that create these micro tensions. There's uncertainty that strains your connection. There's communication breakdowns that become patterns in your relationship that just keep happening. You're spinning out, fighting over the same things. You're constantly anxious. You don't know, you're walking on eggshells. You don't know what's going to happen next, right? My client River described it perfectly. It felt like we were constantly walking on eggshells, never quite sure if we were doing it right. And the tension became our new normal. And we didn't realize how much it was affecting us until we got support and felt the relief. So, the most dangerous part of that is that this wear and tear is so gradual that a lot of times you don't notice it until there's actually significant damage. But here's the good news. Every single one of these costs is preventable. If you're already experiencing them, they're all repairable with the right support. So let's talk about the solutions. I'll give you three powerful steps that you can take right now, plus what they look like in action. So the first thing you can do is just assess your current support system. Okay. So do a quick audit. Ask yourself, who can I talk to openly about non-monogamy? Where do I go when I need relationship advice? Who understands me and my relationship style? Right? Just ask yourself those questions. And if you're drawing blanks, you're not alone. Here's how you build a support system. Start with one trusted friend who's open-minded. Ideally, also non-monogamous. Most of us have a whole bunch of monogamous friends who can be super open-minded and super caring, but also don't have experience. And anytime, this may sound familiar to you, anytime there's a problem, they're like, why would you put up with that? Well, and and the next thing you know, you're defending your partner, you're defending non-monogamy, you're doing a lot of teaching and not getting any support at all, right? But have one trusted friend who is at least open-minded. Join some moderated online communities, some Facebook groups, Discord. Don't love Reddit for this, but it is an option. You could find local meetups for ethical non-monogamy and polyamory. Google's your friend here. And consider working with a non-monogamous professional like myself or a therapist. my client gave me a name for what she calls her support system, and I really love this. She calls it her relationship roundtable. Right? She has one close friend who's also non-monogamous. And caveat there, just because your friend has more experience in non-monogamy doesn't make them the expert. It doesn't mean that their way is also the right way or that their opinions are global and will fit for every scenario for you. But man, it's helpful. So relationship roundtable. She has a close friend who's non-monogamous. She has a supportive therapist. She has an online community for daily questions and a coach for structured guidance. That's me. And she says it's like having a board of directors for her heart, right? Now, some people are like, why would I have a therapist and a coach? Well, your therapist, if you're using one, if you're working with one, if you need to work with one, is someone who's going to help you with the past, who's going to help you heal trauma, heal wounds from your upbringing or your past that isn't necessarily about your relationships or even non monogamy. A coach helps you plan what you're doing next, helps you take the next steps forward. We help you create systems and plans and really find confidence in yourself, find clarity, your North Star, why you're doing what you're doing, where you're going with it, and confidence in your choices, and really just helps you figure out where are we going? How do we get there? Okay. So the second thing I want to give you here is identify your knowledge gaps. And this is actually crucial because you don't know what you don't know. All right. So start by asking yourself these questions. What situations make you feel the most uncertain? What conversations do you avoid? And what triggers your biggest emotional responses? What makes you the most activated? Okay, these are your growth areas. These are where you need to go do some homework. These are where you might need to pull apart your thoughts and ideas and beliefs and your conditioning. These are the areas that maybe you want to work with a coach on. Maybe you need to do some reading. Maybe you need to do some journaling or use some tools. Um, Here's a practical exercise that I like to give clients of mine. Take a week to journal every time you think, I wish I knew how to handle this. Okay, this might mean you write it down in a journal or write it down in a notes on your phone or voice memo yourself, whatever. But every time you think, God, I wish I knew how to handle this. I wish I knew what I was doing. I wish someone would tell me what to do, right? Notice the patterns in your uncertainty. Those are the areas that you need to be digging in. You know, and you can also like rate your confidence in those areas from 1 to 10, right? Some of the common knowledge gaps that I see are like how to manage jealousy proactively and not just react to it. And where do you fall 1 to 10? I have no idea what I'm doing or I'm have no jealousy ever. It's all good. Um, Another one is having difficult conversations before they're critical, before they've hit the breaking point. Creating agreements that actually work, right? A lot of us are creating agreements that just allow us to avoid anything uncomfortable, and those don't really work, especially not for everybody. The more people you add, the more areas of discomfort show up. Um, for different people. Another area is handling unexpected emotions. Experiencing new emotions that you haven't felt before or you haven't really had to deal with before. It's kind of like watching a toddler who is like, I don't know how to deal with the fact that I'm tired, so I'm on the floor crying when really they're just tired. And as we grow up, we learn how to deal with being tired, right? At least I hope so. Uh, it takes practice to learn how to handle big feelings, especially when they're new. And managing multiple relationships ethically. There's a big knowledge gap here, right? Okay, the third tip I'm going to give you here is create a safety net, right? Think of this as your relationship insurance policy. Some of the essential elements include creating clear agreements about what happens when things get hard, having regular check in systems, having emergency communication protocols, having designated support people for each partner, having resources ready before you need them. What this looked like, I'll share for Ben and Maya what this looked like. They created their relationship safety plan that included weekly check ins with specific questions. They would ask the same questions every week. Some of you have heard me suggest doing desires, fears, and loves. This is a great check in. Monthly, they would do deeper discussions about their journey. They also had a code word or a safe word for when either one of them needed to pause or process. They have agreements about who they can talk to for support, and they have clear steps for handling triggers or jealousy or activations. And the result of that is when challenges come up, they have a roadmap instead of panic. One of the things I always tell people who know that they experience jealousy when their partner goes out is to have an action plan, something written down, because when you're in an activated emotional state, it's hard to remember what your plan was for it. Right. So, like, write down the tools you know work for you, whatever your self care plan is, write down the options that you have for things to do to stay busy. Like, whatever your plan is, have it written down so you can just go and look at it. You don't have to pull your brain out of survival mode into thinking mode. You just have the thing and you can just do it. Okay, I'm gonna give you a bonus tip. Um, Something most people actually miss is what are your success metrics? What is the data that you have that lets you know you're doing things right? Okay. So here's some questions you can ask yourself. What does successful non monogamy look like for you? How will you know if something needs adjustment? And what are your non negotiables? What are absolute must haves, cannot go there? And knowing this is how you figure out what your boundaries are, which is a question I get all the freaking time. How do we know what our boundaries are? Well, a lot of us don't know what they are until we're like running into them. We're like, "Ooh, I don't like that. I didn't know I didn't like that, but now that I've done it, don't like it." Right? I had a client share with me that having clear success metrics helped them celebrate their progress instead of only focusing on the challenges. And this is something I hear from a lot of you. It's like, I feel like we're constantly processing, we're constantly talking about relationship stuff. It's constantly heavy. And we were doing this because it was supposed to be fun. And where is the fun? Okay. So if you're spending all of your time processing and talking about relationship stuff, let's get clear on what your success metrics are. Let's celebrate. Let's find gratitude. Let's brag and find joy and go, what is working well? Okay. A couple of things you can do is like have a weekly practice where you review your support needs, schedule your check ins, assess how things are going, and adjust according to that. And then every single week, celebrate your wins, celebrate what is working, celebrate what's worked well, and identify where there are opportunities to learn and grow and shift. Building systems like this isn't about restricting your freedom. I promise. It's about building a really strong foundation so that you can have more authentic connections. You can have more love, more sex, more joy, whatever the things are that you're looking for. We have to build a strong foundation so it doesn't all crumble under you. So I want to hear from you. What's your biggest challenge that you're facing in your non-monogamous journey right now? You can send me a DM on Instagram at Ellecia Paine, or you can leave a comment on this episode or shoot me an email, Ellecia@ElleciaPaine.com. Or join my Patreon, patreon.com/notmonogamous, and come chat with me. You can come hang out with me. That might be fun. And also, if you're ready to stop paying these hidden costs of DIY in your non-monogamy, um, I have something for you, right? That's exactly what I do with my coaching clients in Beyond Monogamy. So imagine going from feeling really uncertain, like, oh, what do I do next? What is the right choice to make here? To complete confidence, to knowing what is right for you and making those choices and feeling confident in them and standing your ground. Imagine treating anxiety, this pit in your stomach all the time, for really juicy, yummy connection with your partner or your partners. Imagine having a clear framework, a clear plan when challenges come up, knowing what to do next and how to handle it. And imagine knowing exactly how to protect your relationships while you're exploring more. I'll give you a quote from one of my clients because it made me really happy. She said, "Working with Ellecia gave me more clarity in 8 weeks than I found in 2 years of trying to figure it out alone." And I freaking adore them. They did so freaking good. This is possible for you too. So here's what I want to offer you is let's have a clarity chat. It's a private conversation. We'll map out where you are in your non-monogamous journey. We'll identify what's really holding you back. We'll create a clear path forward. We'll see if working together is the right next step for you. No pressure, no obligation. It's just an honest conversation about what you need to thrive in non-monogamy. You can go to aliciapayne.com/call, CALL, to book your clarity chat with me. If you're feeling that pull, then that knowing that this is your next step, trust it. I've got you. Thanks for spending time with me. Your relationships are worth investing in. They affect every other area of your life. They affect your parenting, they affect your work, they affect your friendships, they affect your pets. Like, your relationships are worth investing in. Now, love does not have limits, except for time and money. And you need a roadmap to navigate all the emotions. Okay? Bye.